Everyone froze the millionaire, invited his contract wife as a joke, but she arrived like a goddess. Hello everyone, please subscribe and turn on the bell to support our channel. It's free and helps us a lot. Where are you watching from? Tell us below. Now, let's get back to our story. The ballroom lights glowed like molten gold, reflecting off crystal glasses and polished marble floors. But Grace Turner felt smaller than ever as she stood outside the towering Hayes Tower, clutching the thin strap of her thrift store purse. The wind pushed against her like it wanted to send her home, and honestly, she wished it would. She wasn't supposed to be here, not in a place where every woman wore couture and every man smelled like old money and certainty. She whispered to herself, steadying her breath. It's just one event, that's all. But even that was a lie, because nothing about this night was simple. A week earlier, Logan Hayes, yes, the Logan Hayes, the cold-eyed millionaire who owned half the skyline, had slid a contract across a marble table and said with bored amusement, "Be my wife for 6 months. I need someone forgettable." He hadn't meant it kindly. Grace knew that. She had only been serving coffee at the downtown cafe when he noticed her, not because she stood out, but because she didn't. He needed a wife for the board to stop pressing an arranged marriage. She needed money for her brother's surgery, a perfect transaction, or so he thought. Grace swallowed hard, stepping past the revolving doors and into the lobby where chandeliers glittered like constellations. People whispered as she walked by, maybe at her simple dress, maybe at her uncertainty, maybe because they could smell she didn't belong. She forced her shoulders back the way the etiquette coach had taught her. Head high, eyes soft, smile controlled. Still, her hands trembled. Logan hadn't expected her to actually show up tonight. He'd invited her almost mockingly, tossing over his shoulder. "If you want to make an appearance, the gala's at 8. But try not to embarrass me." Those words had stung more than she wanted to admit. Now elevator doors slid open and she rode up to the 49th floor, each passing number punching at her nerves. By the time the doors opened, the music was already floating down the hallway strings, soft jazz, polite laughter. The moment she stepped inside, conversations dipped. Eyes turned. A few froze entirely. Grace felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she kept moving. Every heel click echoed louder than the last. And then she saw him, Logan Hayes, in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, hair swept back, jaw set with the confident indifference of a man who never feared consequences. His voice dropped mid-sentence when he finally noticed her. For a second, just a second, his expression faltered, like he was seeing her for the very first time. He recovered quickly, but not fast enough to hide the flash of something sharp, surprise, maybe even admiration. The same people who had been whispering now stared openly as Grace walked toward him, her dress catching the warm light and turning her into something she never believed she could be: elegant, poised, luminous. Logan exhaled once, quietly, in disbelief. A man beside him murmured, "Who is that?" Logan's eyes never left her. "My wife," he said too quickly, too honestly, forgetting for a moment that it was supposed to be a contract, a joke, a game he controlled. Grace stopped in front of him, her voice calm even though her heartbeat thundered in her ears. "You didn't think I'd come." Logan leaned in slightly, dominance faltering. "No," he admitted, "I didn't." But before she could respond, before the tension could settle into something dangerous, the host tapped his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Hayes family and their honored guests." Grace inhaled sharply, caught between fight and flight, between duty and dignity. And somewhere deep inside, something whispered that tonight, this night, was the beginning of the end for the old version of her, and maybe for the old version of him too. As every face in the room shifted toward the stage, Logan offered his arm. Not because the contract required it, but because, for the first time, he wasn't sure he wanted to let her stand alone. Grace hesitated only a beat before placing her hand lightly on Logan's arm, the warmth of his tuxedo sleeve startling against her cool fingers as they walked toward the stage together. Every camera lens in the room trailed after them, every whisper shifting into a sharper curiosity. Logan leaned in just enough that only she could hear him. "Just stay close. The board watches everything." Grace kept her eyes forward as they stepped into the spotlight, but her voice was steady. "I know. That is why I came." His jaw tightened for a moment, as if the answer bothered him for reasons he could not name. When the host finished introductions and the applause faded, the crowd drifted toward the buffet tables and glittering bar. Logan let his arm fall back to his side, but he did not step away. Grace could feel his attention anchored to her like gravity. A woman in a silver gown glided up to them with a practiced smile that did not reach her eyes. And then she saw him, Logan Hayes, in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, hair swept back, jaw set with the confident indifference of a man who never feared consequences. His voice dropped mid-sentence when he finally noticed her. For a second, just a second, his expression faltered, like he was seeing her for the very first time. He recovered quickly, but not fast enough to hide the flash of something sharp. Surprise, maybe even admiration. A few guests nearby turned their heads. A soft hush rippled out. The woman's smile cracked, but she excused herself quickly. Logan exhaled a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "You did not have to do that." Grace lifted her chin. She started it. His eyes lingered on her a little too long before he answered, "You handled it better than most people would." He looked away immediately, as if annoyed at himself for saying it. A server passed by with glasses of champagne, and Grace accepted one to keep her hands busy. She let her eyes sweep the room the way her etiquette coach had taught her, slow, observant, composed. She never imagined she would stand in a ballroom like this, surrounded by people who had never worried about medical bills or eviction notices. Yet here she was, in a place she never belonged, standing next to a man she should not have known at all. Logan broke the silence. "You look different tonight." Grace blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Different how? He cleared his throat, uncomfortable. More confident. She nearly smiled. "That is called surviving." Logan's gaze flickered again, softer this time, as if seeing something he had ignored before. But before either of them could say more, a man in a navy suit approached with a too-wide grin. "Logan Hayes, the man of the hour. And is this your wife? Interesting choice." Grace felt her stomach tighten, but she forced herself to stay still. Logan's expression cooled instantly. "Careful," he warned, his voice low. But the man laughed. "Relax. Everyone knows this arrangement cannot be real. A contract wife is hardly—" Logan stepped forward, shoulders rigid, and for the first time tonight his mask cracked in public. "Do not finish that sentence." The man paused, startled. Grace expected Logan to mock her too, to use humor as a shield the way wealthy people did when they were uncomfortable. But he did not. His voice carried enough heat to silence the surrounding tables. "She is my wife, and the only person in this room who did not come here to impress anyone." The man backed away with a mumbled apology. Grace stood frozen, heart thudding, unsure if she should breathe or run or thank him. Logan turned to her, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "This is why I told you staying close matters. They do not get to talk about you like that." Grace swallowed hard, feeling something shift sharply inside her chest. She did not know what it meant, and Logan clearly did not either, because he looked away again, suddenly uneasy. Before she could respond, the host's voice echoed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare for the board announcement in 10 minutes. The room stirred with anticipation. Grace's pulse quickened. This was the real battlefield, and she was standing in the middle of it, beside the man who had hired her to be invisible, but who now seemed incapable of looking anywhere else. Grace stood beside Logan as the room shifted toward the center stage where the board members were gathering, a low hum of anticipation rolling across the ballroom. Crystal glasses clinked softly, shoes clicked on marble, and the conversations around them sharpened into whispers that seemed to follow her every step. Logan adjusted his cufflinks, a small tell that he was more tense than he wanted anyone to notice. "When the announcement begins, stay close," he said quietly, eyes scanning the room as if evaluating threats. Grace breathed slowly through the pressure building in her chest. "I understand," she replied, though her pulse was unsteady. "You still do not trust them." Logan's jaw tightened. Trust is not something people in this room earn. They just expect it. Before she could answer, one of the board members, a tall man with a practiced politician's smile, stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. This announcement concerns the future leadership direction of Hayes Industries. Guests rushed to the front, eager to hear who would control the next decade of power. Logan took a step forward, posture straight, shoulders set. But as Grace moved with him, a hand suddenly brushed her arm. She turned to find a woman, elegant in a dark green dress, with blonde hair curled perfectly around her shoulders. Her smile was soft, but her eyes were sharp enough to cut glass. "Grace Turner, is it?" she asked. Grace nodded cautiously. "Yes." The woman leaned in. "I am Charlotte Hale, Logan's ex-girlfriend." Grace felt a strange drop in her stomach, though she kept her expression neutral. Charlotte looked her over the same way a jeweler inspects a flawed gemstone. "You have certainly changed things for him. I am surprised he brought you." Grace answered calmly. "I was invited." Charlotte's laugh was light, almost musical. "Oh, honey, he invites people all the time. That does not mean they belong beside him." Grace refused to look away. Belonging is not measured by gowns or jewels. It is measured by character. The words landed harder than Charlotte expected. Her smile flickered. "You will learn how this world works soon enough," she murmured before drifting away. Logan, who had caught the tail end of the exchange, stepped closer. "What did she say?" Grace shook her head. "Nothing new." Logan studied her for a moment, something like frustration and admiration blending in his eyes. But before either of them could speak, the board member on stage lifted a hand for silence. "Tonight, we are pleased to announce that Hayes Industries will begin restructuring its leadership. Due to concerns regarding stability, personal image, and long-term strategic direction," Logan stiffened. Grace felt her stomach clench. Concerns regarding personal image. She knew exactly what that meant. The board member continued, "We believe Mr. Hayes requires guidance to maintain the company's reputation. Therefore, effective immediately, we will be adding oversight measures. Should Mr. Hayes fail to meet these requirements by the next quarterly meeting, the board reserves the right to vote on a leadership reassignment." A loud murmur spread through the crowd. Logan's expression hardened into something cold and dangerous, but controlled. Grace whispered, "They are using tonight to undermine you," Logan answered. They were waiting for any excuse. And then, as if rehearsed to perfection, a different board member stepped forward. To address concerns about Mr. Hayes' personal life, we ask that his spouse make a brief statement to reassure our investors of their legitimacy. Grace froze. Logan's head snapped toward her. "That was not part of the plan," he muttered, breath tightening. Cameras pivoted, eyes sharpened. The host smiled warmly, but the warmth was fake as frost. "Mrs. Hayes failed to meet these requirements by the next quarterly meeting. The board reserves the right to vote on a leadership reassignment." A loud murmur spread through the crowd. Logan's expression hardened into something cold and dangerous, but controlled. Grace whispered, "They are using tonight to undermine you," Logan answered. They were waiting for any excuse. And then, as if rehearsed to perfection, a different board member stepped forward. To address concerns about Mr. Hayes, he said into the microphone, "Would you join us?" Grace felt the heat of every spotlight turning toward her, burning through her dress, through her skin, through the contract that had thrown her into this world. Logan whispered urgently, "You do not have to do this. I can handle the fallout." Grace met his eyes, saw the storm behind them, saw the weight he carried alone for far too long. And then she whispered back, steady and sure, "Yes, Logan, I do." The board members stood in a stiff semicircle, their expressions carefully composed, but she could sense the quiet satisfaction behind their eyes. They believed they had cornered her, pushed her into a spotlight designed to expose cracks rather than strength. The host extended a hand to help her onto the stage, but Grace politely declined, lifting her chin and climbing the steps herself. The microphone stood waiting, gleaming beneath the warm lights. She could see her reflection in its metal surface, wide eyes, nervous breath, but something new beneath it all, something forming like steel. Logan's gaze found hers from the crowd, his expression a mixture of worry and disbelief. She had not been meant to speak tonight, not in front of investors, not in front of cameras broadcasting across every screen in the ballroom. Yet here she was, and he was powerless to stop it. Grace placed her hands lightly on the podium. The ballroom fell so quiet that even the soft hum of the air vents sounded loud. For a moment she could hear her heart racing, but she drew in a slow breath, letting the tension settle. "Good evening," she began, her voice surprisingly even. "I know many of you are wondering who I am and why I am here." A ripple of discomfort ran through the audience. She continued, "My name is Grace Hayes, and yes, I am Logan's wife." "Hayes," he said into the microphone, "would you join us?" Grace felt the heat of every spotlight turning toward her, burning through her dress, through her skin, through the contract that had thrown her into this world. Logan whispered urgently, "You do not have to do this. I can handle the fallout." Grace met his eyes, saw the storm behind them, saw the weight he carried alone for far too long. And then she whispered back, steady and sure, "Yes, Logan, I do." Someone who is not polished enough, not wealthy enough, not experienced enough to stand beside a man like Logan Hayes. The whispers softened. A few faces shifted, unsure whether to keep doubting or start listening. "But belonging is not about money," she said gently. "It is about integrity. It is about how you show up when things matter. And Logan Hayes has shown up for this company in ways many people in this room will never fully understand." A visible shift rippled across the crowd. Even the board members tensed. Grace continued, "He is not perfect. None of us are. But he is dedicated, he is relentless, and he is committed to the people who depend on this company's success. And if that is not stability, then what is?" Logan's eyes softened in a way Grace had never seen before. She kept going, steady and sure. "Hayes's personal life, we ask that his spouse make a brief statement to reassure our investors of their legitimacy." Grace froze. Logan's head snapped toward her. "That was not part of the plan," he muttered, breath tightening. Cameras pivoted, eyes sharpened. The host smiled warmly, but the warmth was fake as frost. "Mrs. And if you doubt him, then doubt me too, because I will stand beside him through every challenge ahead." A wave of murmurs swept the ballroom. Not harsh, not mocking, but surprised, impressed even. Grace let out the faintest breath, knowing she had said what needed to be said. Then she finished softly, "Thank you for listening." As she stepped back from the podium, the room erupted not in applause, but something far more powerful. Silence mixed with respect. Logan was already moving toward the stage, his expression unreadable but intense, like something inside him had shifted forever. Grace descended the steps slowly, her heart pounding, her legs trembling, but her spine straight. Before she could touch the floor, Logan reached her, his voice a low whisper meant for her alone. "You were not supposed to save me tonight," he said. "But you did." Grace met his eyes, breath unsteady. "I did not save you," she murmured. "I told the truth." And the way Logan looked at her, then raw, unguarded, shaken, felt like the beginning of something neither of them were ready to name. The ballroom had begun to breathe again, but Logan and Grace stood at the edge of the crowd as if the world had narrowed to a single point between them. Guests whispered behind champagne glasses, board members exchanged tense glances, and the host tried to guide the event back on schedule, but nothing seemed to reach Logan. He watched Grace with a stunned, almost disbelieving stillness, the echo of her speech still hanging in the air like a ringing bell. Grace tried to step back, needing a moment to calm her racing heart, but Logan reached out instinctively and caught her hand. His touch was warm, grounding, and unexpectedly gentle. "Grace," he said quietly, "what you did up there, that was not in the contract." Grace swallowed, unsure if he was angry or grateful. "I know," she answered. "But they were tearing you apart, and someone needed to say the truth." Logan held her gaze, his voice lower now, almost unsteady. "No one has ever defended me like that." She hesitated, then answered softly, "Maybe no one ever cared enough." Something flickered in his expression, something that made him look less like the untouchable millionaire the room feared, and more like the man he tried so hard to hide. Before either of them could speak again, Charlotte Hale reappeared, gliding toward them with an icy purpose. Her voice was smooth, falsely sweet. That was quite the performance, Grace. Impressive for someone who has been in this family for such a short time. Grace braced herself, but Logan stepped forward before Charlotte could smirk again. "Charlotte, not now," he said, tone sharp. "This is not your stage." Charlotte crossed her arms. "I am simply pointing out what everyone else is thinking." That speech was convenient, almost rehearsed. Do you expect us to believe someone from her background can speak like that without an agenda? Grace felt the sting, but she forced her breath to steady. Logan's expression darkened. "Her background is not your concern, and if you question her motives again, you answer to me." Charlotte stiffened, momentarily thrown. She recovered quickly, narrowing her eyes at Grace. "Be careful, dear. Men like him do not stay loyal for long." Grace did not rise to the bait. Instead, she said calmly, "Men like him choose loyalty when someone finally believes in them. Maybe that was the difference between us." Charlotte's smile cracked, and she turned sharply, disappearing into the crowd. Logan watched her leave, then turned back to Grace with something like guilt tugging at his brow. "You should not have had to deal with that," he murmured. Grace shook her head. "I can handle people like her. I have my whole life." Before Logan could respond, a sudden cluster of board members approached. Their faces were tight, controlled, but one of them forced a professional smile. "Mr. Hayes, Mrs. Hayes, may we speak with you privately?" Logan's posture stiffened immediately, recognizing the tone. Grace nodded once, signaling she would follow his lead. They were guided to a quiet alcove draped in velvet curtains, away from the buzz of the ballroom. The lead board member folded his hands. "Mrs. Hayes, your statement was effective. Our investors responded positively." Grace inclined her head politely. The man continued, "However, the matter of your authenticity remains important. For this arrangement to reassure stakeholders, we need to be certain this marriage is genuine." Grace felt a cold pressure forming in her chest. "What exactly are you asking?" The board member exchanged a glance with his colleagues before replying, "We need proof that your relationship is not fabricated." Public proof, a display of unity that cannot be questioned. Logan's eyes narrowed. "You want a public test?" The board member did not deny it. "Call it what you want, but if you cannot satisfy this request tonight, the restructuring will proceed, and your leadership will be reviewed." Logan took a step forward. "This is manipulation." Grace gently touched his arm. "What proof do you need?" The man answered with a calculating calm. "A kiss. Here. In front of us." Logan froze, breath caught. Grace felt her heart slam against her ribs. This was not part of the contract, not even close. The board members waited, emotionless, expecting compliance. Logan looked at Grace, eyes conflicted, voice low and rough. "You do not have to do this. I will take the fallout." Grace met his gaze, searching for anger, for judgment, for pressure. She found none, only fear of losing everything he had fought for, and in that moment, she made her decision. "You may think you know him because you have seen him in boardrooms or read reports about him, but I see the man who works late because he carries the weight of thousands of employees on his shoulders. I see the man who pushes himself harder than anyone else, not for vanity, but because he believes in responsibility." She leaned slightly closer to the microphone. "If the concern is reputation, then let me reassure you. Our marriage is real. Our commitment is real." And just before her lips met his, she whispered, "This is for you, not for them." Logan closed his eyes, as if her words cut deeper than any truth spoken tonight, and the space between them disappeared. The moment Grace's lips touched Logan's, the world seemed to stop breathing. The board members stiffened, the ballroom music faded into a distant hum, and even Logan himself went utterly still, as if he had forgotten how to exist inside his own body. The kiss was soft at first, hesitant, controlled, meant only to satisfy the cold demand of the men watching. But something shifted the instant Logan's hand rose on instinct to her waist, steadying her as if the ground had tilted beneath them. A spark, small but undeniable, passed between them. Grace pulled away slowly, her breath unsteady, her fingers still resting lightly on the lapel of his tuxedo. Logan's eyes opened, and for the first time since she had met him, they were not guarded or calculating. They were stunned, vulnerable, and searching. The board members exchanged glances, clearly satisfied with whatever silent checklist they had been measuring. The lead member cleared his throat. "That will do," he said stiffly. "We will update the investors accordingly. For now, Mr. Hayes, consider the restructuring paused." Logan did not respond. He could not. His gaze was locked on Grace as if she were the only person left in the room. When the board members finally walked away, Grace let out the breath she had been holding. She stepped back slightly, needing space, but Logan moved with her, voice barely above a whisper. "Grace, are you all right?" She nodded, even though her heart was racing so violently she could feel it in her fingertips. "It is fine," she said, though nothing about the moment felt simple. Logan searched her face, his brow furrowed in confusion. "I did not expect that to feel so real." Grace swallowed, trying to collect her thoughts. "It was just a kiss for the board," she insisted, but even she could hear the thinness in her voice. Logan took a step closer, stopping himself only when he realized he had done it without thinking. "Maybe for them," he murmured, "but not for me." She froze, the air catching in her throat. Before she could respond, the murmur of guests began to rise behind them as the ballroom returned to its noisy, glittering rhythm. Logan straightened his posture, collecting himself, but his eyes never left her. "Come with me," he said quietly. Grace hesitated but nodded, letting him guide her away from the crowd, down a quiet hallway filled with framed photographs of past Hayes charity events. The noise faded, replaced by the soft echo of their footsteps. Logan stopped near a large window overlooking the city, its lights shimmering like distant stars. He turned to her, running a hand through his hair in a rare moment of vulnerability. "Grace, what you said earlier, what you did up there, you changed everything tonight." Grace looked down at her hands. "I only told the truth." Logan stepped closer, his voice roughening. "It was not your responsibility to protect me, but you did it anyway, even when they tried to humiliate you. Even when I did not deserve it." Grace lifted her gaze, surprised by the raw honesty in his tone. "Everyone deserves someone in their corner, Logan," she said softly. "Even you." His breath caught as if the words hit somewhere deeper than she intended. He looked away for a moment, his jaw tightening. "I am not used to that," he admitted. "People protect me when they want something from me, not because they believe in me." Grace felt a pull in her chest, a sympathy she had been trying to ignore. She stepped closer without thinking. "Maybe that is why you needed someone who did not come from this world," she said. "Someone who sees the person, not the power." Logan met her eyes again, and something unspoken passed between them, sharp and warm at the same time. Then he took a breath and looked toward the city lights. "Grace," he said quietly, "I need to ask you something, and I need the honest answer." She nodded, bracing herself. "Do you regret that kiss?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again, choosing her words with care. "I regret the reason it had to happen," she said truthfully. "But the kiss itself—" She stopped, heat rising to her face. Logan's heartbeat seemed to echo in the silence as he waited. Grace finally finished in a whisper. The kiss itself did not feel like a lie. Logan's breath trembled slightly, the confession hitting him harder than any speech she had given that night. Logan's eyes opened, and for the first time since she had met him, they were not guarded or calculating. They were stunned, vulnerable, and searching. The board members exchanged glances, clearly satisfied with whatever silent checklist they had been measuring. The lead member cleared his throat. "That will do," he said stiffly. "We will update the investors accordingly. For now, Mr. Hayes, consider the restructuring paused." Logan did not respond. He could not. Charlotte Hale appeared at the end of the corridor, followed by two guests holding their phones up with the eagerness of people hungry for gossip. Her smile was thin and triumphant. "Well, this explains the little show earlier," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Grace instinctively stepped back, and Logan moved closer in a protective reflex he did not bother to hide. Charlotte crossed her arms. "A kiss in a hallway with no witnesses would not help your credibility, so I assume that is why you allowed the board to watch it. Convenient." Logan's eyes flashed. "Enough, Charlotte," but Charlotte only tilted her head. "You think one kiss erases the truth? Everyone knows she is just a contract wife, a temporary accessory." The words hit Grace with a sting she recognized too well, a sting she had felt her whole life from people who believed money made them superior. Before Logan could snap back, Charlotte lifted her phone. "And this?" she said, tapping her screen. "This is going to be very interesting for tomorrow's headlines." Logan's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "What did you do?" Charlotte smirked. "I simply leaked what everyone already suspects. A contract marriage, rushed paperwork, zero family background verification, all very suspicious. By morning, reporters will be at your door demanding answers. And when investors start doubting your credibility again, I am sure the board will reconsider their vote." Grace felt her stomach twist. Charlotte had weaponized everything she feared. Logan took a step forward. "Delete it." But Charlotte stepped back with a mocking laugh. "You cannot intimidate me, Logan. You made your choice when you threw me aside, and now I am making mine." She turned confidently toward the guests behind her. "Come on, we have plenty to share." Logan's eyes opened, and for the first time since she had met him, they were not guarded or calculating. They were stunned, vulnerable, and searching. The board members exchanged glances, clearly satisfied with whatever silent checklist they had been measuring. The lead member cleared his throat. "That will do," he said stiffly. "We will update the investors accordingly. For now, Mr. Hayes, consider the restructuring paused." Logan did not respond. He could not. "Not if we stay ahead of her." Logan frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Grace took a deep breath. "I know what people think of me. I know they do not believe I belong here. But if they want the truth, then maybe we should give them something they cannot twist." Logan stared at her, trying to read her expression. "Grace, you are not seriously considering a public interview," she said, voice steady. "A joint statement. You clarifying our marriage. Me telling my side. Not through the board, not through investors, but through our own words, directly." Logan blinked, stunned. This was not the woman he had hired. This was someone stronger. Someone who knew how to fight back without losing her dignity. But before he could answer, Charlotte's voice echoed faintly from down the hall. "You cannot outrun the truth, Logan." Grace squared her shoulders. "She is counting on us to hide, so we will not." Logan exhaled slowly, the anger in his chest softening into something more focused. "You should not have to fix my world," he said quietly. Grace shook her head. "I am not fixing anything. I am choosing how the truth is told." The elevator dinged in the distance, signaling the end of Charlotte's exit and the beginning of a storm waiting outside the ballroom walls. Logan looked at Grace, really looked at her, as though seeing the woman beneath the contract for the first time. "Grace," he murmured, "why are you doing all of this?" Grace felt her breath hitch, but she forced the words out honestly. "Because I will not let someone treat me like I am disposable, and I will not let them destroy you to hurt me." Something broke in Logan's expression then, something that looked dangerously close to tenderness. He reached for her hand, slowly, deliberately, as if asking permission without words. When she did not pull away, he whispered, "Then whatever happens next, we face it together." And as he laced his fingers with hers, Grace knew something had shifted permanently. The contract was no longer the line between them. Something deeper had taken its place. The city lights blurred across the car windows as Logan's driver pulled away from the Hayes Tower, leaving the glittering gala and Charlotte's poisonous whispers behind them. Grace sat beside Logan in the plush leather seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, as if she were holding the night together by sheer will. Logan watched her with a tension that had settled deep in his chest, something protective and urgent, something he had never felt for anyone in his carefully controlled world. "Grace," he said quietly, "we do not have to do this tonight. You have been pushed enough." Grace shook her head, her voice steady despite the storm outside. "If we wait, the lies grow. They spread faster than the truth. We go now, while the narrative is still ours." Logan inhaled slowly, absorbing her resolve. "The reporters will swarm the penthouse," he warned. "They might shout questions at you. Some of them will be cruel." Grace met his eyes, unwavering. "Let them. I am not running." Minutes later, the car pulled into the underground garage of the Hayes residence. But instead of going up to the penthouse, Logan led her to a private studio room adjacent to his home office. The space was sleek, soundproof, and equipped with a clean desk, 2 chairs, and a soft ring light mounted beside a camera. "We will stream live," Logan explained. "No chance for headlines to twist our words, no edits, no cuts, just the truth." Grace stepped forward, her heartbeat a rapid rhythm under her skin. "What will we say?" Logan looked at her with a seriousness she had rarely seen, even in board meetings. "We say everything," Grace nodded slowly. Together they sat at the desk, shoulders brushing, the glow of the ring light painting warm highlights across their faces. Logan adjusted the microphone and clicked the streaming software open. The city lights blurred across the car windows as Logan's driver pulled away from the Hayes Tower, leaving the glittering gala and Charlotte's poisonous whispers behind them. Grace sat beside Logan in the plush leather seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, as if she were holding the night together by sheer will. Logan watched her with a tension that had settled deep in his chest, something protective and urgent, something he had never felt for anyone in his carefully controlled world. Yes, it was unconventional, and yes, the timing was deliberate. The chat exploded, questioning, demanding more. Logan leaned slightly closer to the microphone. But it was not fraudulent, and it was certainly not a scheme. "I asked Grace to marry me because I needed stability, not deception. What I did not expect was that she would bring clarity and honesty into my life in ways that have nothing to do with business." Grace blinked, taken aback by his candor. Then he nodded for her to speak. Grace leaned toward the microphone, her voice soft but unwavering. "When I agreed to marry Logan, I did it because I needed help. I will not pretend otherwise. My little brother needed surgery, and I was running out of time and options. Logan gave me a chance, and I took it." The chat burst again, but Grace continued. "But here is what everyone keeps getting wrong. Being in this marriage has never been about money. It has been about respect." Thousands of viewers began joining instantly. The live chat feed surged with speculation, accusations, and curiosity. Logan glanced at Grace one more time, then clicked Start Broadcast. At once, the world was watching. Logan spoke first, his voice firm and deliberate. "Good evening. There have been rumors circulating about my marriage and my leadership. Tonight, my wife and I are here to address those directly." Grace felt him steady himself as he continued. "Yes, we married quickly." She looked directly into the camera. "We are done being controlled." Logan's jaw tightened in agreement. "From now on, any information about our marriage will come from us. Not from tabloids. Not from former partners. Not from board members looking to manipulate outcomes." Grace nodded once. "We love the truth more than we fear the consequences." That line sent a stillness across the comment feed, as if the entire audience had collectively inhaled. Logan reached over and placed his hand over hers on the desk, not for show, not for the audience, but because he needed the grounding of her presence. "We face whatever comes next," he said, not to the viewers but directly to her, together. Grace's fingers tightened around his. Logan ended the stream with a final steady breath. The screen went dark, and the echo of their combined truth hung in the air like a vow neither of them had spoken out loud before, but both deeply understood. Outside the sealed studio, the world buzzed with reactions they could not see and consequences they could not predict. But inside the quiet room, Logan Hayes and Grace Hayes sat hand in hand, no longer a contract, no longer a performance, but something real, something new, and something they were finally ready to face. The studio remained silent long after the live stream ended, the faint hum of the equipment fading as Logan and Grace finally released each other's hands. The truth had been spoken, and for the first time since their whirlwind arrangement began, there was nothing left to hide behind. Grace exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from her shoulders as she rose from her chair. But Logan reached out gently, his voice softer than she had ever heard it. "Grace, thank you. You did not just protect me tonight, you protected the company. You protected yourself. You protected us." The word "us" lingered in the air, fragile and hopeful. Grace felt it settle deep inside her chest, but she turned away slightly, unsure of how to handle the warmth gathering beneath her ribs. "We told the truth," she said quietly. "That is all." Logan shook his head. "No, you did more than that. You stood with me even when you had every reason not to." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. Dozens of notifications lit up the screen as messages poured in from board members, investors, and journalists reacting to the live stream. Logan ignored all of them. "Whatever it is," he said, letting the phone vibrate untouched, "it can wait." Grace crossed her arms, unsure whether to step closer or create distance. She still wore the simple dress from the gala, the one she had chosen because it made her feel grounded. Grace leaned toward the microphone, her voice soft but unwavering. "When I agreed to marry Logan, I did it because I needed help. I will not pretend otherwise. My little brother needed surgery, and I was running out of time and options. Logan gave me a chance, and I took it." The chat burst again, but Grace continued. "But here is what everyone keeps getting wrong. Being in this marriage has never been about money. It has been about respect. When I first met you at that cafe," Logan continued, "I thought you were the kind of woman who would not bend, no matter who tried to shape you. I did not realize until tonight that you are even stronger than I imagined." His voice softened. "And I am sorry. For every moment I treated you like you were temporary." Grace felt her eyes sting, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming sincerity she had never expected from him. "Logan," she whispered, "you are not the man they say you are. And you never were." He stepped closer, searching her face with an intensity that made her heart pound. "This marriage started as a contract," he said, "but it does not feel like one anymore. Not to me." Grace took a slow breath, steadying herself. "What do you want it to be?" Logan hesitated, as if afraid of the answer he needed to give. Then he reached into the drawer of his desk, pulling out the thin stack of papers that had ruled their lives for weeks, the marriage contract. The edges were slightly bent, worn from being handled too often. "This," he said quietly, "does not define us anymore." Grace watched as he ripped the first page cleanly down the middle, then the next, and the next, until the contract was nothing but loose shreds scattered across the desk like broken promises set free. When he finished, he looked at her with something raw and simple. "Grace Turner Hayes," he said, voice steady, "I am not asking you to be my contract wife anymore. I am asking you to stay because you want to." Grace's breath caught, her throat tightening with emotion. "Logan, are you sure?" He nodded once, without hesitation. "I have never been more sure of anything." Grace stepped closer, placing her hand gently against his chest. "Then I will stay," she said softly. "But not because you need me. I will stay because I choose you." Relief washed over his face like sunrise breaking through the dark. Logan lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "Then this is the beginning," he whispered, "not the end." Outside the studio, dawn began to tint the skyline in soft shades of gold and rose. The storm Charlotte tried to unleash was already losing power. As thousands of viewers flooded social media with support for the couple who refused to lie. But inside the quiet room, Logan and Grace stood close enough for their foreheads to touch, wrapped in the stillness that follows truth. No contracts, no conditions. Just two people who had walked through fire and somehow found each other on the other side. After a long moment, Grace smiled softly. "What now?" Logan smiled back, the first real smile she had seen from him since the day they met. "Now," he said, "we write our own story." And as the first morning light spilled across the room, it felt like they already had. If this story touched you even just a little, hit like so the algorithm knows we still believe in kindness. Tap subscribe and the notification bell so you will not miss the next journey. I would love to hear your thoughts. What moment of giving once changed you? Share it in the comments below. Your story might become the inspiration for the next video. And if you think someone needs to hear this story, please share it with them. Thank you for spending your time here. See you again in the next story.